have a jam-packed afternoon, an exciting afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. For the benefit of our guests and our first-time attendees, I just wanted to talk about what is Irem. We're an international institute of property and asset managers providing complete knowledge to take on real estate management's most dynamic challenges. That means we're knowledge and prepared for the day-to-day and the one-of-a-kind challenges that we all seem to face, from solving the latest tenant crisis to analyzing market conditions. For over 85 years, our members have made us the world's strongest voice for all things in real estate management. We are the only organization that caters to all aspects of real estate. Today, almost 20,000 leaders in commercial and residential management call this home for learning, certifications, and networking, or net weaving, as we like to call it. As your chapter president, I am Karen Key. I am an executive CPM with an accredited management organization, or AMO, Rangewater, and I have a gift for everyone. I hoped to give this out today, but since we had to go virtual, we'll have to postpone that. It'll be given out at the open house on March 16th that later Drew Williams from the program committee will give you a little bit more detail on. But it is a key. Our theme for this year is unlocking your potential, hence the key. This key symbolizes your involvement in Irem and how you took the first step to unlock your full potential. I am challenging you to now unlock somebody else's. Take this key, pass it along to someone who is not already involved in Irem, and maybe someone who would never know that Irem even existed and was there for them. It will give them their boundless opportunities the same way Irem gave them to you. Together we thrive, and together we can make a difference. I'm so excited for this upcoming new year as we adopt and promote and plan on being a region of inclusion and celebrating our legacy leaders. What a year 2021 was. It was such a dynamic year for us, even though all the challenges we had, and we have a dynamic year planned for 2022. As we came into the new year, real estate professionals were taking time to reflect on 2021 and what they learned and celebrate their big wins. The second year of the pandemic brought even more challenges, from juggling parenthood and working from home with careers and carving out personal time, but it also brought us a lot of opportunities. With a total of 468 members and 46 valued industry partners by the end of the year, we have seen evidence that real estate professionals are leaning towards Irem to secure their future. This year, Irem Georgia is dedicated to being very intentional regarding equity and inclusion to diversify our membership base and showcase how Irem can help our members in the advancement of their careers. In alignment with our Region 4 RVP, Shannon Longino's vision, we intend to calibrate our focus and alignment on our legacy leaders. These are seasoned professionals, such as our honorary past presidents, our officers, committee members, and chapter members, highlighting their experience in the industry. It's because of their leadership our industry exists and has sustained under these conditions. Another focus will be our future and incoming leaders, such as our next gen and our 30 under 30. Through our passion for connecting our legacy and future leaders together, we will be a powerful force with a message of together we thrive. We will celebrate our chapter and industry roots, the path that led us here today, and cheers to what our future holds. Although we have made exceptional leaps, there is always so much work we can continue to do and elevate our impact even more. This will be a targeted effort. All members will be afforded a seat at the table and can contribute at any level they can. We believe all of our members bring value and purpose, and we shall forever remain steady in sharing our word that Region 4 is a region of inclusion. Now I'm going to recognize a few groups. And as I go through this, if you are here today, as I get to your group, please type your name in the chat. We want all these individuals to be recognized. And individuals that participate the most, it gives you the chance to win a gift from one of our sponsors today, Labs Parking, Service Masters, or Allied International Cleaning Services. So the first group, our legacy leaders, our past presidents and past RVPs. Please recognize yourself in the chat if you're here. First-time attendees, students, new members, and new partners. Next-gen participants. Legacy leaders. These have 10 or more years as a member, 20 or more years as a member, and partners. Please recognize in what level you're at. National and local award winners. Those serving on a national committee. And all of our committee members that have volunteered to promote and prepare for this session today. And lastly, and definitely not least, those being installed today as an ARM, an ACOM, CPM, executive CPM, or CPM emeritus at 1 p.m. today, please recognize yourself in the chat. Thank you all, and I'm sure they're going to continue to roll in as we have so many people that fall into these fantastic categories, and we appreciate you so much. Now on to some Irem business. So we have updated chapter bylaws that were effective December 15th, 2021. These mandated amendments were approved by the Governing Council during the Global Summit in October. Changes were made and approved by the officers. The officers and chairpersons are now considered board of directors. These bylaws are housed at the Irem, Georgia website. Income expense IQ available. This is always so important for us. With the Irem Income Expense IQ, you can compare the performance of your properties in real time, collaborate with your team, and filter in one interactive dashboard. As a CPM or data submitter, your free benchmark product includes access to all metro areas for one asset class, conventional apartment, office, or industrial. Additional benchmarks for other asset classes can also be purchased within the portal. If you are both a CPM and data submitter, you do have that access that I mentioned to all metro areas for one asset class. If you need assistance, please contact Deborah. She'll be happy to help. And then we're also putting the link into the chat on where you can access this information. 2022 Irem Global Summit call for presentations is now open. Are you a thought leader? Do you have something you want to make sure you get the message out to everyone? Presentations for consideration for the 2022 Irem Global Summit in Dallas, Texas on October 17th through 20th is now open. The call will close February 11th, so you don't have a lot of time. Get your thoughts together and get these submissions in. Let's have some great representation from Georgia. We have tremendous talent in our memberships, and I want to personally encourage you to show your expertise as a printer. We will also have that link in the chat as well if you are interested. New CPM explainer video available. Irem headquarters has a new video for us to use in our recruitment of efforts for CPMs. This explainer video walks us through the CPM process from the experience needed before you get started and the steps to take to complete the process. Deborah will share the link with everyone and we'll also have it in our chat, but please take a few minutes to watch. It's always a great refresher, so it gives you an idea of what we need to advise people to do. Additionally, we'll be hosting a virtual membership, education, and scholarship orientation starting at 2 p.m. today. It is a different passcode for the meeting. Please visit the Irem Georgia website to get the login information, but it will also be here in the chat. New learning and subscriptions are now available. In addition to our existing webinar subscriptions, members and non-members can now sign up for a Skills on Demand subscription or a Webinar and Skills on Demand combo subscription. The Skills on Demand subscription provides access to over 180 on-demand courses from 1 year while it takes the webinars and skills through and gives you access to all of it with 100 more webinars. More information as well as pricing are available. Please reach out to the Education Committee, Andrea or Deborah, for more information. but we will also add this link to the chat. So lots of important links in the chat, guys. Please make sure you're trying to keep up with it. 2022 Advocacy Impact Day. So a little bit of sad news here. We had planned to conduct this in person, just like we had planned for this to be in person today, but with the uncertainty of COVID and the number of congressional offices not available for in-person meetings, and obviously the importance of keeping our members' health and safety at top of mind, Advocacy Impact Day will now be a virtual event. The virtual Advocacy Impact Day will be held on Wednesday, March 9th. Information on the agenda, the speakers, and registration will be communicated next week. So prepare for that one, guys. That's always a big one for us. For those of you not involved, we're happy to share that we have some amazing committee opportunities for this year. Irem, Georgia has been recognized for having exceptionally strong succession plans and for grooming our officers to become president. The Georgia chapter promotes volunteering to be a committee person to the entire chapter. Serving on a committee is open to all associates, all students, ARMs, ACOMs, CPM candidates, CPMs, and industry partners, so everyone can participate. Serving on a committee, then becoming the committee chair begins the process for becoming an officer one day. We have several active committees, and becoming a chairperson for one of them is a big responsibility and a fantastic opportunity to get the most out of your membership with Irem. So please feel free to email Deborah at iremga.org if you would like to be more involved with Irem. Plus, share in the chat. We have people monitoring the chat. We'll be happy to take the information from there and reach back out to you from there. So given that, I am now going to turn it over to the one and only dynamic Drew Williams.
Thank you, Karen Key. I appreciate you so very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you all today as we usher in 2022 and kick things off with one of our most anticipated events of the year. But before we jump into that, I do want to take a brief moment to inform and remind everyone to please mark your calendar for a very few important events that are coming up. First and foremost, March 16th, it is our Irem, Georgia Open House. This is a refresh and renew event. It will be housed at the Irem, Georgia offices at North Creek Park. It's an event where all of our various committees are going to come together and have on display all of the fantastic resources and services and products that Irem has to offer. So are you a 10-year CPM candidate that just can't get it across the finish line? Well, come see us. Or if you're a legacy leader and you want to get reacclimated with what's going on in your local chapter, by all means, stop on by. If you're not involved enough and you want to be, come see me. And if you take our chapter president, Karen Key's advice to heart as strongly as I do, by all means, take the key that she will so kindly share with you all at this event and forward it on to somebody who could also benefit from the boundless potential that Irem has to offer, or go ahead and get ahead of the game and bring them with you to the event. You know, I'll tell anybody that's willing to listen that my career simply did not start until I found Irem. So please grab a friend, a peer, a colleague, someone hopefully who may not look like you or come from the same background as you. We'd love to have them and you. May 25th, it's the return of Irem, Georgia's second annual golf tournament. We're coming back to Club Echelon. We ironed out all the kink, folks. Fret not. It was a massively successful event last year and so much fun. The theme will be Key Up to Tee Up. We're going to be recognizing players at all levels with various awards. So be thinking about your foursomes or come as an individual player and we'll be happy to kind of match you up. We even have a last place prize being awarded the Honesty Award. So looking forward to seeing everybody on May 25th. And last but not least, this one's going to be big, 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 y'all. June 15th, Irem, Georgia First. We're thrilled to share with you the first ever roast of Dr. Debbie Phillips. We'll have 6 real estate professionals in tow as official roasters, of whom we can all agree is an industry legend and icon. I mean, there's just so much material there, right? It's going to be an amazing event. If you can't make it, fret not. It's going to be live streamed. So Proceeds from that live stream will also go to benefit the Irem Foundation. So if you got a buddy in Kalamazoo, Michigan, who loves Dr. D as much as we do, and would love to see her get skewered on stage, by all means, invite them all along. And yes, to answer the stewing question from all of our VIPs on the call, there are still sponsorship opportunities available for several of our events. So please feel free to reach out to either Jonathan Kern or Deborah Westfall for those opportunities. So with all that being said, let's move this show right on along and usher in our main event. My friends, David Haddo has represented individuals and institutional clients in real estate investments since 1979, including 7 years at Landauer Associates, where he served as senior vice president in charge of their firm's Atlanta office. That then led him to found his own real estate consulting firm, Haddo and Associates, in 1989, where he still serves as president and chief strategist. He's a former mortgage broker and city planner. He serves as a part-time instructor in the College of Design at Georgia Tech. His articles have appeared in numerous real estate journals and periodicals. The man's a licensed real estate broker and a member of the prestigious Counselors of Real Estate. Active in civic affairs, David has served on numerous boards and volunteered considerable time to nonprofit organizations. Clearly, when it comes to real estate and financing, David Haddo is widely known for having more than just a finger on the pulse of real estate activity. He's widely respected for his predictions, his professional advice for our real estate investors, and he's often considered the Nostradamus of today's real estate industry. So, my friends, let's please position ourselves to get in the know with David Haddo and give him a very warm Irem, Georgia welcome as he returns for the 23rd year. Folks, with no further ado, please welcome our very special guest, Mr. David Haddo.
Woo!
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Deborah, how you doing? Let me say, first of all, thank you for having me, as always. I appreciate it. I obviously would prefer to do it in person, as I'm sure you guys would, but I'll make do. I got to tell you a quick caveat. I do have COVID right now. I'm still recovering from it, so pardon me if I start coughing or something like that during my talk, but I feel like I'm in good shape and ready to go, so we'll see how it'll hold up. The topic that I've picked for today, the title, is the market correction that never came. I think we've all sort of been wondering the last couple of years when the real estate market was going to correct. We did see a correction in the economy, obviously, in 2020, but we've yet to see a true correction in the real estate market. So I want to share with you, that's sort of an overriding theme of the talk today. And in the course of presenting that talk, I'm going to do it, I guess, in three parts. First is, and I have never done this before, so this is fresh, is to talk about 10 numbers, 5 economic, 5 real estate, that to me kind of tell the story of current conditions. So I'm going to use those 5 numbers as a rallying point to have that discussion or structure that discussion. Secondly, I'm going to do a brief SWAT analysis of Atlanta, strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, threats, for where we stand today, and kind of draw a conclusion about what that means for this year and beyond. And lastly, I'm not big on forecasts because I don't believe it's humanly possible to do it very well. I will talk about things to watch, things to monitor in the coming months and year that I think are important and may help tell the story about what direction we're headed in. I'll make a public service announcement first and foremost. I'm able to talk to you today, even though I have COVID, because I'm vaccinated and I'm boosted. And it's almost shameful that in the state of Georgia, only 54% of our population is fully vaccinated, and that does not count boosted. So the percentage is a lot lower of those that are fully boosted. So I'm, I think, pretty living proof, since I was just diagnosed less than a week ago, that this can be a fairly mild virus if you're prepared for it. And We should all avail ourselves of that. It's frankly, a gross disservice to the healthcare industry for people not to get vaccinated and to put such a burden on our healthcare system. But enough of that. So let me jump into my talk. My first number for you under telling the stories by numbers is 2 months. 2 months, believe it or not, was the duration of our last recession. I didn't know that until recently. You may or may not know this, but the National Bureau of Economic Research is who officially designates the start and finish date for economic cycles. And they declared that the last economic expansion ended in February of 2020. And then, starting that recession, and that the recession was over by April of 2020. So 2 months later. Far and away the shortest national economic recession in our history. But more importantly, it came on the heels of a 128-month economic expansion, which was the longest economic expansion in history. So cogitate over that a little bit. We went almost 13 years without a recession. We finally had a recession that obviously was precipitated by COVID, and that recession turned out to be very short-lived. Now, there are reasons for that, which I'm going to go into in a minute, but I think that's an important thing for everybody to focus on. All right, number two, 242,800 jobs. 242,800 jobs. And if I was in person with you, I would test y'all on this and ask you to tell me what that means, but that's not fair, doing it virtually. That's the number of jobs that the Atlanta MSA lost between February of 2020 and June of 2020. So we had a net loss of almost 250,000 jobs in metropolitan Atlanta during that 4-month period of time. So while our recession was short-lived, it was very real. I mean, we had a significant job contraction, which frankly, we're still recovering from. Last year, 2020, at the end of the year, when you look at the annual average, we had a net loss for Atlanta of 150,000 jobs. So we recovered some of those losses from spring of 2020, but not all. So we were still down significantly. As of November of last year, so just a month and a half ago, our employment level in metropolitan Atlanta was still 5,000 jobs short of what it was in February of 2020. So in spite of the fact that our economy has bounced back extraordinarily well, we are still lagging by a small number, the employment level we had in February of 2020. Number three, number 2.2%. And I imagine most of you can guess what that is. That's our unemployment rate right now in metropolitan Atlanta, which of course is incredibly low. The national average is a little bit over 4%, which is also low, but 2.2 is incredibly low. So clearly another reflection that our local economy is doing pretty dang well. We've added a lot of jobs. The number in the last 12-month period, this is November of 20 to November of 21, we added almost 140,000 jobs. So once again, another reflection that we as a community have recovered very well economically from the recession. Keep in mind that in April of 2020, the unemployment rate was 12.6% in Atlanta. So we went from 12.6 to 2.2 in about a year and a half. Fourth number to reflect on is $2.2 billion. $2.2 billion. That is the state of Georgia's budget surplus over the last fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. Why is that on the list? Well, once again, I think it's another reflection of the resilience of Georgia's economy. It's also important because it means the state of Georgia's got money to spend, particularly with this election year coming up that we're in right now, the election season. And you've already seen evidence of that with the governor offering to provide raises to government employees and teachers. And So it's going to make for interesting times. But more importantly, it's just a reflection that, once again, Georgia's economy has been pretty resilient. And in case you're curious, the reason revenue exceeded expenses by that much, in spite of some economic uncertainty, is that food consumption and gasoline consumption were way up. So the sales tax generated by those offset the losses in the hospitality industry and others. Fifth number, $5.7 trillion. $5.7 trillion. That's the amount of money that the federal government has authorized in COVID relief, starting in March of 2020 through March of 2021. So it started during the Trump administration and continued during the Biden administration. $5.7 trillion, which is an incredible expenditure by the federal government to deal with, obviously, a very difficult and precarious situation for the economy. It helps explain why the recession was so short-lived. I told you I'd reflect on that in a minute. One of the consequences of that $5.7 trillion expenditure is our national debt is now $30 trillion, which is double what it was 10 years ago. So once again, in many ways, you could argue it was a very wise expenditure of money to keep the economy from tumbling into the dark abyss, but there is a cost to pay, and that cost is future generations and the debt service that we're now burdened with, or further burdened with, as a result. All right, those are the 5 economic indicators. Let me give you 5 real estate indicators closer to home. And I think you're going to see that it tells a very mixed picture of what's happening in our real estate market. First number is minus 2,911,746. 2,911,746. It's a negative number. That is the negative office absorption in metropolitan Atlanta last year, per Jones Lang LaSalle's statistics. We even though leasing picked up in the second half of 2021, the setbacks and the contractions were so severe in the first half that for the calendar year, we had a net loss of almost 3 million square feet of office occupancy. Now, we've had a big surge in sublet space. Our vacancy rate at year end was 23.3%, which is a significant increase from what it was a few years ago. So suffice to say, the office market is not thriving. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in terms of some of the factors that are impacting that. Inversely or conversely, the industrial market is on fire, which it was this time a year ago when I spoke to you, but it's gotten even more heated up. The absorption number for the last 12-month period that's available, this is through October of 2021, and this comes from King Industrial Realty, 32.7 million square feet. So the office market lost 3 million square feet of occupancy. The industrial market gained 32.7 million square feet of occupancy. That's far and away a record for Atlanta. And that's, I'm sure, continued through the fourth quarter of 2021. Another statistic that's almost equally remarkable is during that 12-month period, October to October, 43.9 million square feet of space went under construction, which once again is far and away a record for Atlanta. Of that, only 18% was build to suits. So what that tells you is there's a lot of speculative development underway. It's being leased at incredible levels, which of course motivates people to continue building more. So it's a, arguable half full, half empty scenario. The full part is the market dynamics are fantastic right now for industrial. Cap rates are compressed to really low levels. Leasing volume is off the charts. But if something happens to upset that pace of activity, we do run a risk because we have such a volume of speculative development underway. The eighth number I've got for you is 21.4%. 21.4%. That is the annual increase in Atlanta house prices as of October 21. That's the most recent number from the S&P Case-Shiller House Price Index. So in 1 year, house prices in Metro Atlanta increased on average 21.4%. That's almost unfathomable. So clearly, the single-family housing market is extremely strong. Unlike the office market, the balance is in favor of demand. The demand well exceeds the available supply, which is what's driving pricing up. That's obviously to settle down this year, but clearly a reflection of the strength of the for-sale housing market. Even the condominium market last year had its highest sales volume of new condo sales since 2007. The ninth number is 15.9%. 15.9%. And this comes from Haddo & Company's database. As I mentioned to you in the past, we do a report on the condo market and the apartment market twice a year for the in-town Atlanta. And the last apartment report was third quarter of last year. The increase third quarter 20 to third quarter 21 was this 15.9%. We've never seen an increase. That's probably 3 times what the highest increase had ever been before. And to give you a frame of reference, during the previous 12-month period, and this is same store rents. This isn't average across new and old. This is taking the same projects from one period to the next. So it's a true apples and apples comparison. Same store rent growth during the previous 12-month period ended in October or September of 20 was negative 5.4%. So you talk about a total about face. We had a situation where the apartment market was starting to soften up. Same store rents had fallen. Leasing velocity was tailing off. New starts were even starting to slow. And then all of a sudden, in the second half of last year, rents just absolutely exploded. Last number, $425. $425. That is the average price of 7 land sales in Midtown last year, average price per square foot. $425 a square foot. Now keep in mind, it wasn't, 10 years ago that the average price in Midtown was probably $150 a square foot, maybe even less than 10 years ago. So 425, once again, is a significant reflection of how heated Atlanta's real estate market is in certain sectors. And Midtown obviously is leading the pack right now in terms of developer and investor interest. But it's also a reflection of one of the things that worries me, and that is an overabundance of capital. And you've heard me preach about this in the past, that money is the root of all evil. And while money helps grease the real estate market and creates a lot of profit for a lot of people, which is what's happening right now, it can ultimately lead to a lot of excess and some real challenges. So we're going to watch that with caution. I want to pause right now and tell you a little, what I call a metaphorical story. A few years ago, you may remember me talking about Shannon Mall as a metaphor for what's happening in the Atlanta real estate market. When they tore down the mall on the south side of Atlanta to redevelop it with a big box warehouse and a movie studio. And I thought that was reflective of kind of this change that was occurring, obviously from brick and mortar retail sales to online sales, but just a dramatic reversal in terms of traditional market dynamics. Well, I read about one the other day that to me is equally dramatic, even though it's not in Atlanta. The story is, and this is happening as we speak, Allstate Insurance Company, which is headquartered in Northbrook, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, has a corporate campus that they built back, I believe, in the 60s that has 1.8 million square feet of offices, kind of campus style offices, on a total of 232 acres. Well, during COVID, nobody was coming to work. Everybody was working remotely. And the top brass at Allstate started thinking, maybe we don't need this campus anymore. And maybe we ought to look at ways to monetize this asset. Well, those 232 acres are currently under contract to a developer out of Las Vegas or out of Nevada. I'm not sure where in Nevada they're from. They're paying $232 million for the property. So do the math, that's $1 million an acre. And they're going to tear down all the buildings and replace them with 3.2 million square feet of industrial space. So they're going to tear down a perfectly good suburban corporate office campus, paying $1 million an acre to redevelop it with a 3.2 million square foot logistics center. The developer, company called Dermody Properties, was quoted in this article saying, I wish I had the quote directly in front of me. Basically, the fact is this is just reflective of our times. You know, that online sales have become so predominant and people's desire to work remotely so prevalent that that's the reversal that's occurring, and that's impacting real estate. I just thought that's a fantastic story. The conclusion from this first section of my talk is that Atlanta, the economic setback triggered by COVID was short-lived, both nationally and locally. And Atlanta's economy has bounced back very nicely. Real estate activity remains very strong, and property appreciation has been particularly dramatic. I mean, particularly in apartments. I mean, some of the numbers are just mind-boggling. If you follow what's in the paper when they quote a recent sale and reflect on what the property had traded for just a few years earlier. Very uneven real estate market conditions exist, however, with some puzzling trends. So once again, it's a good news, not bad news, but leaving you still a little wary, and we'll reflect upon that more in a second. All right, let me run through this Atlanta SWOT analysis real quickly. The S obviously stands for strengths. So here, in my opinion, are the things that are Atlanta's strengths right now, as well as nationally, that kind of bode well for the near term. Number one, we have a diverse economic base, which has always been our dominant strength. We have right now, I think, and I mentioned this a year ago in my talk, we are a direct beneficiary of this corporate embrace of equal opportunity and a diverse labor force. Almost without fail, if you read any recent announcement of a new company that's come here or expanded here, and there have been quite a few in the last 18 months, the CEO says the big attraction was Atlanta's diverse labor force. So there, it's, you know, having the historically Black colleges here, having Georgia State, generating significant number of African-American graduates, have really become a dramatic economic development draw. And frankly, I think it has a lot to do with Microsoft making the big commitment they've made here. Thirdly, we've had significant expansion in key sectors: healthcare, logistics, supply chain management, fintech, TV and film production, mobile technology, software, and most recently, electric vehicle manufacturing. So you can point to very specific sectors of our economy, both locally and statewide, that are in a great expansion mode. We've had, you know, just countless corporate relocations and additions, probably more than we've had in a long time in a very short interlude. The forecast for employment growth this year by Georgia State is 81,000 jobs net. You know, that's pretty good. So that suggests that, you know, we're back on our feet and should enjoy solid employment growth this year. As I alluded to earlier, we're in an election year, a political cycle, and the state, the governor has money to spend. Well, that's going to help prime the pump. we have a wealth effect, both locally and nationally, because of the stock market's increase over the last several years. I mean, I don't think you can overstate the impact of that. I mean, the S&P index last year alone, Standard & Poor's index, went up 27% in 1 year. So what that does is raise consumer confidence, which is now at a pretty high level again, and consumer spending. And always remember that 70% of gross domestic product is consumer spending. So things that allow people to feel more comfortable spending money are good for the economy. This federal infrastructure bill that was recently passed is a plus, and obviously sorely needed to improve our country's infrastructure and will help spur economic growth. It's more federal spending, public spending. And then most forecasters, economic forecasters, predict good GDP growth, maybe not off the charts, but solid, and few, if any, are predicting a recession. So once again, those are the strengths. The weaknesses are obviously the convention and hospitality industry is still reeling from COVID, and that's a big cog in Atlanta's economy. Delta, I shared with you last year, I think they lost $12 billion the previous year, in 2020. I don't know what their number was for this past year, but obviously they still have financial and operational challenges, and they're also a major cog in our economy and a major driver of economic growth because of the airport. I think our state politics, particularly with our governor feeling like he's got to now veer even more to the conservative side, and now he's talking about legislation that would allow concealed weapons without a permit. On top of this voting rights legislation that was approved earlier in the year, are a little scary. And they're the kind of things that could dissuade TV and film production companies as well as corporate groups from coming to Atlanta and Georgia. Certainly didn't discourage them this past year, but you go far enough, witness moving the all-star baseball game out of Atlanta last year, it can have an impact. So we need to keep an eye on that. Inflation, and this has been in the paper a lot, it was 7% the last 12-month period that it ran, November to November. Highest it's been since 1982. That's a little scary in and of itself, but the most direct implication is it may cause the Federal Reserve, as they're already intimating, to starting to tighten up monetary policy. And the federal government, the Federal Reserve's loose monetary policy and basically zero interest rates has been a thing really priming the pump over the last several years. Well, if all of a sudden they begin to put the brakes on, and they've been very coy about it so far, but if that happens, not only might that slow economic growth, it certainly could upend the stock market. And you've seen some evidence of that just in the last several days with how volatile the stock market has become. And lastly, the national political climate, and this would be the understatement of the year, is caustic, divisive, and unproductive, and frankly scary. So I don't want to get in a lot of political talk, but that's a fact that we can't ignore and has implications. All right, opportunities. One of the things that just happened a few months ago that I think didn't get a lot of publicity was this Center for Global Health Innovation. It's a relatively new nonprofit. It's only 2 years old. Here in Atlanta, that just leased 200,000 square feet in the old Bell South Tower in Midtown, the one next to the Fox Theater. 200,000 square feet. And it's an attempt to become a collaborative entity to bring together different healthcare organizations, private and public, and facilitate conferences, provide lab space. It could be an enormous impact, have enormous impact on Atlanta, on Midtown, on our ability to really grow our biotechnology companies here, which we have some of, but have not had the same kind of growth as we've had in other aspects of technology. So I think that's really a big deal. I think this Rivian plant in Covington is another reflection of something I think the state, frankly, has done very well, which is put a lot of eggs in this electric vehicle manufacturing, electric battery production basket, and it's bearing fruit. I mean, if you haven't seen that SK plant up in Commerce, I mean, it's incredible. This one's going to be even, 3 times bigger in terms of employment. It's also already attracting other investment and related suppliers out on the east side of town. So that's a big deal. And it gives Atlanta and Georgia a real jump start in terms of attracting more and more business from what's going to be a burgeoning industry without a doubt. TV and film production just continues to grow. I mean, you hear from any of the studios that are out there, they're all going gangbuster. A lot of them are going through expansions. So that has not only been successful, it continues to prosper. And lastly, tech company growth. Oh my goodness, just look at what's happened in the last 18 months between Google, Microsoft, Facebook. It just goes on and on. Recently, Visa's announcement in Midtown. I mean, there's just one after another of major companies making significant commitments to Atlanta that, once again, a lot of it hasn't even, it's not even in place yet. So that's very exciting. All right, lastly, threats. In my opinion, the office market is clearly the most vulnerable sector of the real estate market. I cited a few statistics earlier, but on top of that is this whole trend towards remote work. I think that's a real phenomenon, and I don't think it's going away. And it's hitting at a tough time because we already have high vacancy. We already have a lot of stuff in the pipeline in terms of new construction. We've had companies do build-to-suits and vacate a lot of space. I'm going to give you this little story. State Farm just completed their big regional headquarters up on the perimeter. You may have read that almost the same day they completed it, they turned around and sublet over 500,000 square feet to Carvana. So in other words, before they even moved in, they realized they built more than they needed. Anthem in Midtown just this week announced that they're going to put half of their space in that build-to-suit building in Midtown that Portland just built for them, 164,000 square feet on the sublet market. If those don't get your attention, you're living in a hole. Second threat is there's definite evidence of excess in the real estate capital markets in Atlanta. They're starting, one of the things I've always said, there are a few things you look for to try to anticipate the next downturn. One is easy money. One is deals going forward that just don't make sense. Another is when land prices rise exponentially. Another is when there are just too many developers running around trying to do deals. And almost weekly, there's an announcement of a new developer coming to Atlanta from Texas, Chicago, wherever, Florida. And once again, some of the transactions that have occurred are at prices that are just mind-boggling. One that was in the paper just last week was in Midtown. A group called Drapac bought a site a couple of years ago as a speculator, 3/4 acre site. I think they paid $4.5 million for it. They had intended to hold it for a period of time. A group approached them at year end, apparently had some hot money. I don't know whether it was tax-free exchange or what, but they offered them $19 million. So Drapac said, well, if you could offer me stupid money, we're going to take it. When you hear of things like that, those are early warning signs. Those are shots over the bow that you got to pay attention to. So in short, we're overdue for a real estate market correction because we didn't have one when this last recession hit. Same thing happened in 03, 04. You may recall back then when I talked to you about it, where we had a dip in employment, actually lost jobs a couple of years in a row. But because the Federal Reserve was keeping the rates down, interest rates down, and George Bush was promoting homeownership and subprime lending was going haywire, that kept things revved up for a couple more years. And then when the correction came, it was brutal in 09. So once again, I don't think the correction's coming this year, but I don't think it's necessarily way off in the future. And I think, in summation, if you look at everything I just said, Atlanta's economy is doing great, both near term and I think some long-term trends that are very favorable. Real estate market conditions are mostly very favorable, but I do think we are making ourselves a little vulnerable to, I could say, a pretty dramatic correction if there's a hiccup in the economy. And a hiccup meaning something happens nationally and internationally that we can't anticipate right now that might cause an economic contraction. All right, so I'm going to close with some things to monitor. These are things that I personally and those at Hadley Company are suggested, we suggest they keep an eye on. And obviously, number one is COVID. The pandemic rules everything right now and still does 2 years later. And I think we all need to sort of stay abreast of that. And hopefully this time next year, it'll be largely behind us, but I guess they're telling us it'll never really be behind us, but hopefully on much more stable, predictable ground. Number two, watch this evolution of remote work. Watch for stories in the paper about companies giving back space. Watch for stories of companies that are just saying we're going totally remotely. And I can give you countless examples of those that have. It may be a blip. It may be just a very short-term aberration. But if the trend continues, even if it's at a much reduced pace than it feels right now, it has real implications for the office market. Number three, watch this January 6th Select Committee. I think they're on the brink of really getting at the full truth of what happened a year ago. And I'm hopeful, and I'm going to get political again, bear with me, that bears a lot of fruit in terms of laying blame where it rightly exists. And frankly, hopefully, once and for all, sealing former President Trump's fate politically for the future. We do not need to have him back in office. So I'll stop right there with that. Inflation, keep an eye on that because once again, for the reasons I mentioned, watch the Federal Reserve. I think they have a meeting today where they're supposed to announce their intentions. That has a lot of bearing on what happens in the stock market right now. It's very, what's happened the last couple of days alone is just almost unsettling. How much the market dropped early in the morning and then came back 2 or 3 days running. Watch the stock market because it's a pretty good predictor of where things are headed. And lastly, watch this Buckhead City movement. Hopefully, based on recent stories, it's on death watch. But until it's totally dead, I don't think any of us can rest easy. We don't need that to proceed forward. It's not good for Atlanta. It's not good for the state. I'll give you this one simple statistic. In the city of Atlanta in 2020, that's the current city, over 20% of our residents were below the poverty line. Now, that might not shake you up, but this should. Nationally, that number is 11%. So right now in the city of Atlanta, our poverty rate is almost double the national average. What would happen if Buckhead seceded from the city? I'll leave you with that to contemplate. It's been a real pleasure. I'm sorry I got so political this time. I'll blame it on the virus. And thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Wow. Thank you, David. That was Absolutely amazing and phenomenal. I know this is every year, this is the meeting I look forward to. I love getting the update and hearing what's going on in all the sectors of real estate. I know you guys were probably quiet in the chat because, like me, you were feverishly writing down everything he had to say. I have pages and pages of notes, but join in the chat, share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you guys. And, remember, participating in the chat is how you have a chance to win a prize. So get in there, share your comments, share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you all. But I mean, just thinking about what he's saying, that Georgia is resilient. Obviously we are. We're seeing that happen. And I don't think I had heard the stats yet on how long we had been in expansion compared to how short that recession was. So 13 years to 2 months. I mean, what a testament to our local and our national economy. I think we all are right there with David in that we know we're overdue for a real estate market reset. But I say we just all keep plugging away and we keep riding this wave as long as we can. We know this industry comes in ebbs and flows and cycles, and we have been at the top for a while and we'll stay at the top for as long as we can. But I will say you guys are priming yourself for when we do hit that downturn, when we start to see challenging times, leaning on Irem, leaning on each other, leaning on the tools that we can provide you guys is exactly how we get through it and how you get your clients through it and your tenants through it as easily as possible. So yeah, that was an amazing presentation, and I can't wait to share everything that I took with my team that couldn't attend today. Moving on. So first, I want to talk about our sponsors. We cannot do meetings like this without our sponsors. You guys are so important to us. You really make all of this possible, and you make everything we do within Irem Georgia possible. Our valued industry partners' support today is greatly appreciated. Our partners are vetted and referred by members and partners. So we encourage you to work with these approved partners in all of your business needs. And don't forget, you're rewarded with 10,000 Irem Georgia bucks whenever you do. Our system gives you to receive these bucks, and it relies on the honor system. So you make sure you complete it and get the submission back in, and we'll make sure those dollars get into your account. Log on to the Irem Georgia website, scroll down to the Irem Georgia Bucks page, and you'll see the form you need to fill out. This new way of submitting is your involvement is so easy to do. It makes it so much easier than the way we were doing in the past. Irem Georgia Bucks are only given to active members and partners. Just simply complete the activity you participated in. And if you have any questions, reach out to Deborah. As always, she is willing to help anyone she can, any way she can. And that said, I am actually going to turn it over to Deborah now to talk about our sponsors today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Karen, and hello, everybody. I am excited to introduce and remind my sponsors, or our sponsors for today, our very important valued partners. If you would just unmute yourself and go ahead and turn your cameras on. In fact, if everybody will turn your cameras on in a little bit, we're going to take photos. And I want to give credit for everybody that has their backdrops on, and thank you so much for participating today. But I would like to just thank these sponsors. We have a combination today, some that have been partners for over 10 years, then we have a brand new one. So first, I would like to let you see somebody that we've seen before and adore with Allied International Cleaning Services.
Thank you, Deborah. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying your 2022. My name is Robin Shaw. I'm with Allied International Cleaning Services. We are a locally owned company here in Atlanta, and very blessed to say that we work with many, many of you and hoping to work with more of you in the coming year. I was listening just a little while ago and I was thinking, what do people think that janitorial, really, what is janitorial? Everybody thinks, well, you know what, that's just a day maid, it's a night cleaner, it's, but you know what, it's really so much more. It is. I mean, not only do we clean commercial, medical, we clean behind the red line for medical, we clean industrial, we do, we are, do multifamily. I mean, we are there. Back in 2020, when COVID was this awful thing that came about, Allied, you know, I know I'm partial because it's my family, but we took charge. I mean, we stepped out. We did not only did we, each one of us receive get training on everything needed. We went out, we took all of our porters, our day maids, we trained them in infectious control so that they would know the proper way of doing everything. I mean, the proper way of simply avoid, how do you wear your mask? How many times do you change your gloves? When do you change your gloves? What chemicals are used for what, etc. Allied is, I mean, we're just it's an amazing company. Again, I know I'm partial, but I've been here for over 10 years and it is just my second family. I hope that you guys, if you have any questions, any opportunities, please reach out to us. Let us know what we can do. We'll come in and work with you guys and do the best that we can to make it happen. So saying that, thank you for having me here. Today is our giveaway. We're giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. So you guys just keep on with your chat and I look forward to speaking to the winner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robin Shaw with Allied International Cleaning Services. And now I would like to introduce one of our brand new partners and very experienced in his field, however. So without further ado, the Surface Masters.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Yes, I am very excited to be a new Irem member. You know, I got to go to my first Irem luncheon last year. Sherry Carney invited me and I was just blown away by the energy in the room and the fellowship and just the group of people and all the vendors that I knew who are already in it and everything. It's just a wonderful group. So we're really happy to be a new member here and get a chance to sponsor right here off the get-go here in 2022. So the Surface Masters, as you may or may not know, we are a local paving and asphalt maintenance company located right here in Marietta, Georgia, where we've been here for 11 years. And asphalt maintenance, what does that mean? Well, not only do we do paving, but we also do seal coating, striping. I guess simply put, we fix parking lots. So it could be anything from a small pothole to liabilities around your parking lot, whether it be trip hazards, everything all the way up to a full-scale repave of your entire parking lot, or maybe if you work in HOAs, your whole community, or multifamily, your whole apartment community. So we handle everything from just a single small property all the way to your entire portfolio. Right behind me, this was a 1.5 million square foot job that we just did last year. So we can do a lot of heavy lifting, big or small. We service the entire metro Atlanta area and far beyond, all the way to Charleston, South Carolina, down to the panhandle of Florida. Also new for Irem members, we'd like to offer free audits and inspections on your parking lots. We purchased some new software last year that allows us to prepare some really nice comprehensive audits for you. So feel free to hit me up in the chat or send me a message if you'd like for one of our guys to come out and take a look at your lot. Today we are doing a $100 Visa gift card for whoever lights up the chat the most. So look forward to meeting everyone, and thanks again, Deborah.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And now our last wonderful valued industry partner is Laz Parking.
Hey everybody, my name is Doug Brooks. I'm with Laz Parking. Good to be here again. How do you follow up with Robin and Lang? You know, Robin, what a great story you've got there. And Lang, this is a great segue because we're a parking operator here in Atlanta. We've been in Atlanta since 1992. We're a national company. A lot of you guys know us by some of our more prevalent partners. We do all the parking services for the Braves and the Atlanta Hawks, all of the Battery, Jamestown with Ponce City Market, Westside Provisions, CIM and the Gulch Development and Newport downtown. We do, you know, everything from commercial, mixed use, residential, medical, hospitality, event. And we have about 150 properties here in Atlanta. We're very blessed to be able to serve a lot of clients here and employ over 1,000 employees in this market. I will say we're a lot more than that. This organization has been great for us to really get that message out Our mission statement is to provide value to our clients and opportunities to our employees. That's critical in how we deliver our services on a daily basis. And I say it all the time, it's only by doing right by you and our employees that we've been able to experience that kind of growth in Atlanta. So as your partner here, I welcome any questions related to parking and ancillary services you may have, whether it's technology, demand studies, rate maximization, operations, top to bottom. So we're here as a resource to you. We appreciate your support. Our prize today is 4 tickets to the Atlanta Hawks, including parking and a $20 food and beverage credit for each one of those tickets. So once you guys figure out who that is, Deborah can get you my contact info, and we can figure out which game you want to go to and get those to you.